John Dillinger was one of the most wanted men in America. How much money did he get away with?
In today's money, just under $11 million.
Wow.
There's actually a good portion of it that was never recovered.
So this is one of the guns that John Dillinger stole from the Lake County Sheriff's Department?
Like, the actual gun?
Yes.
After all these years, it turns out the rumors were true. John Dillinger's treasure was finally discovered, and it was so huge that Josh Gates even thought about retiring.
Definitely man-made, incredible!
The story of Dillinger's lost fortune had baffled treasure hunters for ages, keeping them on a never-ending quest. And recently, the whole team dropped everything to dig into this massive find. Could this be the most legendary treasure ever unearthed? Let us dive into the incredible story of one of the world's most expensive treasures that will leave you speechless. Hunting for Dillinger's lost loot. Many years have gone by, but experts and treasure hunters are still trying to find Dillinger's hidden wealth, which he is thought to have stashed away before he was eliminated. What treasures did Dillinger manage to hide? Josh Gates is all set to put together the old clues, hoping to uncover the legendary hidden stash. But really, how often do these searches turn up anything big, like more than a couple of old coins or a rusty gun? The story goes back to the fascinating yet somewhat glorified life of Dillinger himself. Born during the tough times of the Great Depression, Dillinger started his criminal career in the early 1930s. He quickly became famous for his daring bank robberies and his charm, which won over the public, though certainly not the law enforcement. Known as Public Enemy Number 1, Dillinger led a gang that included notorious criminals like Babyface Nelson and Homer Van Meter, carrying out bank heists across the Midwest with a flair that made it seem like something out of a movie. However, Dillinger's crime spree came to a sudden halt. Arrested in Tucson and later famously escaping with a gun he had faked, he resumed his criminal activities until federal agents finally caught up with him outside Chicago's Biograph Theater. His death marked the end of his days as a criminal but began his legend. Interest in his life and rumored hidden treasures continues to be strong. Moving forward to today, here's Josh at the Dillinger family farm, which is now home to Mike Thompson, Dillinger's nephew, and Travis, his great-nephew. They add to the legend with stories of wealth hidden and passed through the family generations. A family legend, an old jar, and a few maps. Each of these is considered more than just old items. They're seen as clues. As the search continues, each item found adds to the excitement. A discovered jar here, a shotgun shell there, each is highlighted as an important part of the tale. But in this treasure hunt, it's easy to forget that Dillinger was more than just a charming criminal. He was a real person with a life full of both controversy and normal moments. Finding personal items, like a shotgun shell possibly used by Dillinger himself, brings a personal dimension to the legend, showing a man defined not just by his criminal record, but also by his family and background. This excavation does more than just dig up old things. It sparks a renewed discussion about who Dillinger really was. Was he a sort of Robin Hood, or just a charismatic thief? As Josh wraps up the episode, this question hangs in the air, leaving viewers to think about the man behind the legend. And as always, the possibility of more hidden items just below the surface keeps the audience coming back, hopeful that the next find might be truly significant. Chatting with the Dillinger family gave Josh Gates a deeper insight into John Dillinger. Although definitely a criminal, Dillinger's life story was more complex than just a series of crimes. He was shaped by harsh times, and his choices led him down a risky path. This new understanding highlighted how his decisions impacted not just him, but others around him. A few days later, Josh set off on another adventure. While exploring a newly discovered burial site, the team came across a surprising find, a small, ancient coffin, likely meant for an infant. This discovery was important because it offered insights into the burial customs of the people who once lived in the area. The placement of the coffin, tucked against the wall of an older, more elaborate tomb, indicated it was added after the main tomb was built. This probably happened because the child's family couldn't afford a separate burial site. In ancient times, it was typical for poorer families to bury their loved ones nearer within the tombs of the wealthier, hoping to secure a better afterlife for them. As the wind started to kick up sand, the team moved their operations to a tent to protect the fragile artifacts they were uncovering. However, Josh and a few team members stayed outside, determined to keep searching. Their determination paid off when they found a piece of a gold necklace, indicating that the child came from a wealthy family, as gold was usually reserved for the upper classes in ancient cultures. The infant's grave reveals ancient customs, and the next find may uncover more about the past's complexities. Uncovering ancient child burial. To their surprise, another artifact was found soon after, a two-part vessel that looked like a basin with a lid. This find complicated their understanding of the site, suggesting that the child's burial was part of a larger, well-planned funeral practice, likely involving multiple members of the community. Inside the tent, the team put on protective masks to avoid breathing in old dust and spores that might be harmful. They gently opened the old moisture-damaged casket and discovered an ivory earring, suggesting that the remains inside belonged to a young girl. Josh made a remark about the strong winds outside, playfully suggesting that perhaps the spirit of the little girl was making itself known. Despite the poor condition of the coffin, it still held some hidden treasures. Among these were shiny, colorful beads made of clay and quartz, crafted with great skill by ancient artisans. The team handled these beads with care, knowing that they would need careful preservation and possibly some restoration to bring the necklace back to its original beauty. This find added a layer of excitement to their work and offered a glimpse into the life and culture of an ancient society that buried its children with such care and respect. Further investigation showed that the body in the casket had been wrapped in linen, indicating it had been mummified. Although the mummy was in poor condition, the presence of the linen wrap showed that the body had been fully covered, suggesting that the girl came from a high social status, as also indicated by the ivory earring and the elaborate necklace. As they carefully sealed the ancient coffin again, the soft echoes from the past seemed to invite them to dig deeper into the tomb, where more history lay waiting silently. Reflecting on the significance of their finds, Josh thought about how they were handling the remains of a real person, a little girl who had lived and died over 3,000 years ago during the New Kingdom era. She was more than just a figure from the past. She had a family, a life, and a story that was part of a larger historical narrative. The researchers acknowledged the efforts of the ancient Egyptians who had ensured that the girl was well prepared for her passage into the afterlife, believing that, despite her short life, she had been thoroughly prepared for eternity by the burial practices of her time. After finishing their examination, they closed the coffin lid gently, leaving the mummy undisturbed. As the wind calmed down, they discovered that the large tomb they were excavating might provide clues about the decline of the Old Kingdom, an exciting prospect that offered new insights into the ancient culture they were studying. They then widened the entrance to the upper chamber of the tomb, removing layers of sand to gradually reveal its contents. Inside the upper vault, they found a complete pottery jar. It was unclear whether the jar had been displaced over time or placed there deliberately, but its presence deepened the intrigue of the site. The upper vault, positioned directly above the main burial chamber, held the potential for discovering valuable artifacts or perhaps finding nothing of significant interest. The team believed this room had remained untouched, which heightened their anticipation of what they might find. As they continued their excavation, they found mummy wrappings just outside the vault, which was confusing since such materials typically belonged inside. Determined, they dug further into the sand, convinced that the main burial chamber must be nearby. Their persistent efforts were rewarded when they unearthed a mix of mud brick and limestone fragments, strong indicators that they were close to the main burial chamber. This discovery brought cautious excitement to the team, even though they were aware that what might seem promising could turn out to be quite ordinary. They proceeded with caution, removing more soil and debris to expose a vault with elaborate decorations. This vault suggested something potentially significant within, raising the team's expectations. Still, they were mindful of past experiences where exciting finds led to disappointing conclusions. The decorations on the vault suggested it housed someone of great importance, which only added to their anticipation and skepticism. Each step into the old vault teases big discoveries that could reshape our understanding. Unearthing ancient things in the tomb. As they cleared the surrounding area, they were struck by the familiar thrill mixed with a nagging doubt. Had they really found something groundbreaking? Or was this just another case of initial excitement followed by disappointment? Each scoop of earth removed revealed more of the vault, which was intricately adorned, suggesting that they were indeed onto something special. However, they had learned to temper their excitement with a realistic outlook. History had shown them that not every decorated vault held treasures or significant archaeological discoveries. Sometimes the most beautifully adorned chambers held little of actual value or historical significance. As they dug deeper into the burial chamber, the amazing detail in the carvings and the expert craftsmanship started to tell a tale. The symbols and old writings on the walls might help figure out who was buried there and their importance in society. But understanding these symbols was really challenging. Each symbol could mean a few different things, and depending on how you interpreted them, you could come up with different ideas about the history and culture of the people buried there. When they found the grave of a young girl, it helped them learn about life, death, and beliefs about what happens after death during the New Kingdom period. This discovery got the team thinking a lot. Was this gravesite just by itself, or was it part of a bigger group of tombs that hadn't been found yet? Every idea they thought of led them to new ways to look into things and new insights about the past. As they dug further, the team felt a connection to the civilization that had once been there. Every layer of dirt and every object they found linked them back hundreds of years to this ancient society. But the full meaning and understanding of their finds were still not clear, because often the more they uncovered, the less they felt they truly understood. When it was time to open the deepest part of the burial chamber, everyone felt a lot of tension. What was behind the chamber door? Were they about to find a huge collection of historical items, or just some traces and leftovers from a long-gone era? This moment was about more than just digging up old stuff. It was about the hope of making a connection with a time long past. They approached the final barrier with a mix of hope and caution, knowing that what they found next could totally change how they saw the site, or might just bring up more questions than answers. With careful movements and holding their breath, they removed the last bits of earth from the entrance to the inner chamber. Would this turn out to be a groundbreaking discovery, or just another clue in the complex history of humanity? The answers, hidden for thousands of years, were now just inches away, silently waiting in the dark of the ancient chamber. 2 weeks later, Josh Gates started an amazing trip to find out the truth about the legendary city of El Dorado. This city has fascinated explorers and historians for ages because it was supposed to be entirely made of gold. Many Spanish explorers and adventurers, known as conquistadors, traveled all over South America a long time ago trying to find this city. Their searches often ended up hurting or destroying indigenous communities. These conquistadors were big players during the Age of Exploration, exploring the Americas and the Caribbean from the 15th to the 17th century. They were driven by a search for riches, and their actions often led to the disappearance of native cultures. This makes us wonder, was there really a city filled with gold? Or is it just an intriguing story that's been passed down through generations? Today, treasure hunters and historians still flock to Colombia, the center of the El Dorado legend. The legend describes a city where gold was as common as dirt, streets were filled with precious metals, and leaders covered themselves in gold dust for special occasions. These stories have sparked many expeditions, most of which end up adding more intrigue rather than uncovering solid facts. After exploring burial practices, Josh heads into the Colombian jungle, where the legend of El Dorado may reveal hidden truths. Exploring the myth of El Dorado. While there is evidence that there were advanced civilizations in the region that had gold and other valuable items, the idea of a city entirely made of gold is probably just a myth. El Dorado is more likely a symbol of the wealth and power of various indigenous groups in South America. Recent archaeological efforts continue to reveal the complexity of these societies instead of finding hidden treasures. In one adventure, they went looking for a cave where it said ancient people used to leave gold, pottery, and other precious items during their religious ceremonies. Another significant find involves graves from a powerful old civilization near what's known as Colombia's Stonehenge, El Infiernido. This spot is thought to have been a major gathering place for the Muisca people, who were excellent at farming good at making things from metal, and had a complex way of organizing their society. As the old vault shares its final finds, a new challenge emerges in the dense jungles of Colombia, where the story of El Dorado still twinkles beneath the tree cover. These graves give us a better understanding of how the Muisca lived day to day and celebrated their rituals, deepening our knowledge of Colombia's rich history. As Josh Gates starts his exploration into the El Dorado story, he heads 50 miles from Bogota into the foothills of the Andes to Sesquile, a sacred site for the Muisca. Understanding the importance of local insights, Josh teams up with Ashley Cowie, a friend and specialist who has spent years forming bonds with local tribal leaders. Traditionally, the Muisca were divided into groups, each led by a chief called a cacique, and they farmed on terraced fields, growing crops like maize, potatoes, beans, and squash. As Josh and Ashley venture further into the jungle, they find a hidden world of ancient structures and artifacts untouched by modern hands. These finds show the creativity and skill of the region's ancient people and are crucial to understanding the true story behind El Dorado. When they reach the Muisca village of Sesquile, the locals welcome them warmly, keen to share their customs and knowledge. The community, with its strong connections to its past, provides valuable insights into the cultural and spiritual practices of the Muisca. While exploring the ruins, Josh and Ashley are amazed by the size and intricacy of the constructions. These ruins are not just individual structures, they are a part of a larger network of interconnected buildings that stretch across the landscape, each discovery helping them get closer to understanding the Muisca civilization and the El Dorado legend. However, their exploration is full of obstacles. Navigating through the thick jungle and managing unpredictable weather conditions tests their stamina and resolve. But their quest to uncover truths drives them forward, deeper into the jungle and closer to the hidden facts. Josh and his colleague aim for the Temple of the Sun, perched on a hill, which is the final obstacle before they can access Colombia's most sacred sites. At the top, they find a significant ceremonial structure and meet Carlos Candle, the community leader. Gaining access to the sacred site is tricky. Josh must first be accepted by the community, which means he needs to build trust and respect for their traditions and values. As an outsider, he must be mindful of the nuances of Muisca society. Josh's exploration is about more than just discovering ancient objects. It's about learning and appreciating the beliefs and customs of the people who created them. In the Muisca community, involving the gods' favor for important tasks was deeply connected to rituals that included healing actions and offerings. The village chief played an essential role by using tobacco to summon the spirit of the sun god to protect and guide Josh and his team during their expedition. This act was more about honoring traditional roles than truly expecting supernatural guidance. The ceremony was filled with dense smoke and led by the shaman, who handed out rapé, a finely ground tobacco said to bring calmness and purity to the participants, preparing them for the next part of the ritual, which involved purification offerings. Did John Dillinger's treasure bring closure to a long-standing questions? Or does this discovery only scratch the surface of even deeper things yet to be uncovered? Share your thoughts on this incredible find and let us know what you think. Remember to like and subscribe for more.